That was why, at the end of Ezra chapter 4, that's what he said. He said there was political opposition, so the people stopped building the temple. And the temple platform laid there barren for 15 years. For Haggai, political opposition is not the problem. And I kind of want to sit here and say, Haggai, did you read Ezra 4 and 5? Well, no, he didn't, because Ezra came later. But do you understand what's going on? Listen, we're getting significant, serious, legitimate political opposition to doing what God wants us to do, and therefore we've stopped. The fact that Haggai doesn't even mention that seems to indicate to me that that excuse is completely immaterial. And that it is nothing more than just an excuse. And we do this too. We make all kinds of excuses. Oh, I don't feel like doing this, or I don't feel like doing that. Can I tell you a little story? I was really, about 2 months ago, I was really excited. I was just so thrilled to be here that I ordered. I shouldn't tell the story because it makes me look like a fool. But you'll learn that's true anyway, so I'm not going to just lay it out. So I ordered a bunch of tracts. In fact, we've got some of them here. Really great tracts. In fact, someday I'd like to actually kind of go through these tracts with you. It was written by a Dallas Theological Seminary grad who was very unhappy with all the kind of cheesy tracts that are out there. And in fact, I sat under this guy as he taught evangelism for a while. And I thought, man, I'm going to get these tracts. I'll get them in a week or two. And then as soon as I get these things, man, I'm going to go out there and we're going to slap our sticker on the back. And I'm going to go out there and start passing out these tracts and doing evangelism and really doing, that's what I want to do. Telling people about the church, telling people about the gospel, handing them the tract, and that'll be all exciting. And I was just going to wait for this box to come in. 150 tracts would be great. A week went by. 2 weeks went by. And I thought, I should be doing something, but I'm not doing anything evangelism-wise. I'll wait till this box comes in. A month goes by. 6 weeks go by. So I'm on my computer and I'm going through my Grace and Light Bible Church file, and I see the receipt, the electronic receipt from the sale of this thing. And I think, well, I had to give them a call just to let them know I haven't got this box after 6 or 7 weeks. It should have only taken a week. But the whole time, I'm not doing the evangelism I would like to do. I'm not telling people about the Lord where I should. Why? Because I don't have these tracts. That's my excuse. I looked on one thing that I got to thinking of is maybe I haven't got them because on the account is still the address of my former church. So I thought maybe all of a sudden they got this box of tracts. They don't know who donated these, but they're passing them out and doing what the Lord, maybe they're doing what the Lord wants them to do, and I'm not doing what the Lord wants me to do. So I look on my account, and it's my address on the website, the website for this place. It's my address, it's my city, my zip code, state. And under country, they list out all the countries, and I came up a couple countries short.
Uganda.
There is a box of tracts sitting in Uganda. And I'm telling you what, if there's a spiritual revival in Uganda,
that's great.
So I called them and I said, it was all my fault. And they said, no, we should have called that, because that happens a lot. We should have called that. We'll send you a new set. And they have, and we have them out here, and I hope you can grab some and use them. But you know what? I used that as a really lame excuse to not share the gospel with people, because I don't have my little tracts. And it really makes you think about, well, why do we make silly excuses? Well, what are some of the excuses we make for not doing what the Lord wants us to do? Oh, the schedule and the time, and I'm tired, and the kids, and if I had a little more money, if I had a little more this or that. Listen, there's always an excuse for not doing what the Lord wants us to do. Rarely are those excuses legitimate? I knew a guy, I know this will connect with some of you. I knew a guy who got excited when he went into AFib. Because he was getting to know the people at Emory really well. And every time he would go there, he would tell them about the Lord. And they'd see him, they'd know him by name. You don't want the people there to know you by name, really. Oh, hey, it's, you know. But he would get excited because he would use that as an opportunity, even as he's going through AFib, to share the gospel with someone. And I sit here and I think, as I've been beaten up by Haggai all week, I sit here and I think, what are my excuses? And even when I identify them, I have to admit, they're really not good excuses. They're pretty petty. They're pretty silly. I know there was a long way to go simply to say, verse 2 is a bad excuse. God is, and the Holy Spirit has inspired Haggai to accurately record a wrong excuse of the people. Just not time. Now, even though it's a bad excuse and a bad reason, God is going to throw this excuse back at their face and say, okay, let's just take your ridiculous excuse and apply this to your situation. Does that excuse hold up? Is it a valid excuse? So verse 3, then the word of the Lord, verse 3, then the word of the Lord came by Haggai the prophet, saying. Now what's interesting is we have God recounting this excuse, the people's excuse in verse 2, and then he's responding to it. You notice the word at the beginning of verse 3, then. Okay, God knows the bad excuse. He's making Haggai aware of the bad excuse, and then God intercedes. I think God is going to let us get away. I think God will let us get away with making ridiculous excuses for not doing His work. I think He will let that happen for a while, but at some point He's going to step in and say, okay, enough's enough. Let's think through your excuse, and I think once you do that, you'll realize how silly it is. Then the word of the Lord came by Haggai the prophet, saying, verse 4, is it time for you yourselves to dwell in your paneled houses, while this house lies desolate? Let me give you a couple of notes about this. So God asks this rhetorical question in verse 4. The people's nebulous time. This is the other thing about appealing to time the way they have, or appealing to schedule, or man, I was just too busy to do this. Those are subjective arguments. Those are subjective excuses. You know what? It's always too busy to do this, that, or the other. We can always point to a scheduling problem for not doing the Lord's work. Those are subjective and vacuous excuses. So he throws this excuse back in their face. And he says that your logic does not even make sense by your own standards. And he says, okay, you say it's not time to work on the Lord's house. Is it time for you yourselves to be working on your house? And he mentions to dwell in your paneled houses. I have a note for you here. The word paneling, chiffon, means to cover or to overlay, to panel. You've got your, we do this today, you've got your structure, and it's sufficient to keep the cold out and keep the warm in, but then you panel it and you make it look beautiful. We do this today, not a big deal. And I think what we tend to do is we look at this word paneling and we say, okay, this is referring to, in fact, I've even done this here, this refers to their luxury and their excess. I think, though, the word chiffon means more than that. In fact, I've given you a couple other uses for this word. You'll find this word referred to twice in 1 Kings 6 to refer to Solomon's temple. It was chiffoned. It was paneled inside. And it is also used of Solomon's palace, and now I'm thinking there in 1 Kings 7, 3 and 7, it is specifically referring to not just his house, but to his throne room particularly. Okay? Now keep that in mind. He's not just paneling his palace, he's paneling his throne room. It is used once of the evil King Jehoiakim's palace, so another place where someone is using it in their palace. I don't think Haggai is just saying the problem here is the luxury and the excess. I think what Haggai is saying is, even while God's house lies desolate, you people are living in houses that are fit for gods and kings. Your house looks more like a temple or a throne room, where really you just need a place to keep your family warm and safe. You know what? We all have nice things. We all like nice things. We've got trinkets, we've got knickknacks. We have all that kind of stuff. And I've been in many of your homes. They're very lovely. They really are beautiful. And Martha does a great job with our home. It's a very beautiful home. I don't think that in and of itself is the problem. It can be. When we make our house whatever, for them the contextual link is they were making it more, they were adorning it more than it needed to be. And that's the question we need to ask. We want to have a comfortable home. We want to have a home where we can entertain people, where we can, just treat people, where people can come, where they can enjoy the blessings that God has given us. There's that. At what point does that become a vehicle for self-glorification? For saying, look, I'm a king. My house looks like a temple for God. I don't know that, and I'm not going to say what that point is for you. You need to do that on your own. I know in some ways what it would be for me. At what point am I putting myself on too high a pedestal? At what point am I siphoning my life where instead I should be focusing on God? And that's the other issue. I think if we have some luxury, if we have some good things that the Lord has given us, that's fine. But are we putting God first above those things? So the problem is not just that you are enjoying luxury. The problem is you are enjoying luxury, and look at the other side of this in verse 4. Is it time for you yourselves to dwell in luxurious, kingly, temple-like houses? Okay, while simultaneously, while the house of God, while this house lies desolate. Now it's funny, the Hebrew's kind of funny, it says house, this house, and well, what house is he talking about? Well, everybody knows what house he's talking about. The funny thing is that house that he's referring to doesn't even exist. It's not even a broken down house. It's not even a house that needs a little bit of work. They have so focused on their own luxury and wealth and opulence because of a little bit of political backlash from building the temple. They have so focused on themselves that the house of the Lord doesn't even exist. We're not just in their case talking about, God's priorities are second or third. God's priorities are not even on the radar. Haggai seems to indicate your houses are more like temples for gods, or palaces for kings. And look, all we have is a platform for the Lord. Larry sent me a book a couple weeks ago that I've been reading on and off. It's really, really fantastic. But there's a moment for this author where he was really struck by this idea that, well, we spend so much time on us in this country. American Christianity is so focused on us, or the church, and not very focused on God. And I basically this pastor, he's a big pastor, he's got a big church somewhere, and he received this news publication, a little bulletin, a Baptist bulletin. And on one side, there was a headline that says, First Baptist Church something or other celebrates new $23 million building. Okay, so he gets this publication on one side. It says First Baptist something or other, has this, it inaugurates, it celebrates this new $23 million building. On the other side of the page, I think down toward the bottom, there was a headline, Baptist Relief Helps Sudanese Refugees. Now, this man was about to, he had had some interaction with Sudan, and was about to go back to minister to people in Sudan, so he was interested